Welcome to Watch Your DM. I'm Gabriel. Today I want to go over the Stygian Library, kind of a flip through and review of the Stygian Library, written by Emmy Cave Girl Allen, illustrated by Alex Sorensen, edited by Terrence Walsh and Alicia Ridley, layout and design by David N. Wilkie and Minerva McJander, and produced by Zachary Cox. It's a Soul Muppet publishing book. It's funny, it says it is an adventure designed for old school role playing games and their modern cousins. Arguably, this is more like a adventure generator, and we'll get into why I say that. One thing I can say right out the gate is the construction of this book is fantastic. It feels awesome in your hands. It's got a nice ribbon. It's the classic kind of black and white uncoated paper of a very high quality, nice book cloth, nice end papers. The whole production is very, very nice. I also have Gardens of Een, which is in this series and has the same, touch and texture, which is just amazing. Very, very beautiful book. Very much recommend it on those merits alone. Now, how this actually works is that the Stygian Library is a extra-dimensional place that your party can find in their campaign or in an existing location. It is always behind some door, I think usually locked. So there's a nice, brief, clear explanation of what the Stygian Library is, a nice, brief, clear description of how to get there, and I'm sure you could come up with a number of places that match these. So the requirements are it must be a collection of books or similar works, it must be large enough that you can't see all of it from the entrance, and somebody must have died there. Any such space will contain an entrance to the Stygian Library. One of the things that I love about this is it makes it possible for the party to start using the Stygian Library as a place of escape, or as a place like a way to short circuit certain things. If they know that two places that connect to the Stygian Library, it's possible to kind of narratively use it as an in-between place or liminal space. Super cool. Why go there? It's a library. You can go there to do research. It is infinite in its scope complexity, touching, however, tangentially on every library built, that ever has been built, or that ever might be built. So if your party is looking for information, this is a place to send them. How you actually run the adventure, or how you run an adventure within the Stygian Library, is you roll on a location table to see where a doorway leads. That's your first roll. You use the details table on page 18 for the specifics of the place. You use the random events table for what's going on there. And then each time they come in, you'll be mapping kind of a new place. So you take out a sheet of paper. In the center at the top, you write the location where the players entered. This is layer 0. And they can either stay here, go deeper, or go back. And at this point, you are now generating the nature of the library from this entrance. When I ran this, I did not necessarily understand this, so it was really nice to kind of run this as a duet to get how this works. But there's some other features to this. So this is like the rules for kind of delving, if you will, into the library. There's also a feature called running blindly, which is that you're just running for your life or something, and this can cause you to kind of lose track of where you are, and it can kind of impact the number of layers deep that you're going. While they're interacting with a location, you'll want to roll an exploration turn on the random events table. And there's different dice you'll use for different situations. That's on page 20, and then settling in. So you can settle into a location and kind of, it can be a place to rest. You'll roll for random encounters here on a different clock. Between locations, so it can be interesting to describe how that works. but they are nothing of interest. So it's important to note that, like, when they're moving from one location to the next, it should be a place that doesn't have anything interesting in it, even if it takes a long time to go through that. There are creatures that live in the library, and there are people that live in the library. So this talks about life inside the library. There's no windows, no signs of a theoretical outside. There's some light, but largely it is dark. And then, yeah, just, again, really clear bullet points describing what you should expect or what you'll need to know to run this effectively. Magic in the library. So this is an interesting bit. This is kind of an unfortunate side effect of transdimensional or pocket dimension places. Teleporting cannot take you out of the library. Like, these are the kind of things where you have to kind of caveat certain spells and player powers to make sure that your adventure works. It's too bad, really, but this is what we get for our elf game, and I think they do it fairly gracefully here. Importantly, how this adventure works is like you almost always want to be looking for something while you're in here. Now, in the case of the time I ran it for my partner, she was looking for tea, so it was like really, really, it can be mundane. Obviously, if they're looking for information, this is more keyed to that. And yeah, basically they accumulate kind of knowledge points, as it were, based on the depth. And as they accumulate that, they can get closer to finding the information they're looking for. The librarians are just describing the different orders of librarians who live within and organize the place. Then you've got your locations. Honestly, a pretty, like, this is, there's not a ton here. You're going to roll here, and you're going to probably come up with the same results a few times. The way that I ran that was just, it's different places that have the same purpose. And of course, you've got your details. So, and one thing I love about this is you roll, it gives you the page number for exactly where that thing is. You roll, your page number for exactly where that thing is. Random events, roll, page number, just like the whole time. And it really does generate some very interesting stuff. The downside to this is that you are going to need to kind of be able to quickly get to a few different places. So, like, let's say I rolled a 7, so it's 42 for the ink vat. Let's say I rolled a 27, it's the haunted ink vat on page 68. So 42, 68, and I rolled a 7. Something is returning to its home, so 22 to 25. You can see how, like, I need to be at 3 pages at once. And because the objective is to actually kind of run this on the fly, I think a digital version of this book would actually work a bit better, where you could, like, roll and get all 3 kind of bits of information all in one place. Now, I'm not going to go through everything, obviously, because that would be exhaustive, and really it would kind of spoil the fun of this adventure, in that you get to learn so much cool stuff in here. But, like, it starts, I think, with auditorium. So, yeah, your locations, one of these is going to be auditorium, and it's going to say it's on page 26. So, auditorium and boiler room are both on 26. Okay, so we started the room descriptions. Some of these are really punchy and short, right? They're pretty clean. Some of them, on the other hand, have lots of stuff going on. So there's some really interesting diversity. And then the trick with this, the challenge, is to take your location and then look at your details. So I think we had haunted here, so we'll go to 68. So yeah, I think I had 42. Let's just do this one. So 42 is the ink vats. Okay. And then 68 is haunted, right? And then I think 22 to 25 has the something is returning home, which we can deal with that separately. But you'll want to roll on these tables. So you may need a second between traversing, like, areas to kind of get your bearings of what's happening in the place as you move around. But it's worth it. Like, the outcomes are really enjoyable. There's also nice, like, kind of lettered, like, it's in alphabetical order, right? It's like a library. So you can really easily find stuff. These are all, I think this is all the Bestiary back here. So there's some interesting kind of monster slash characters that you'll run into back here. Now, it is for old school adventure games, so it does not, it has like hit die 1, HP 5, armor as leather, a very generic style of stat block, kind of just letting you reference the stat block that you want. The art in here is very consistent in its style. It's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous job. The layout is exemplary, highly usable. So yeah, and then you've got your a bunch of tables in the back, kind of bound up and put together, and some nice fiction here in the back that kind of helps align some stuff. The mummified sage, the Neurovore gourmet. Brain eating. Gosh. A dungeon in the extra dimensional space between every library in the universe. Kind of says it all. Anyway, that is the flip through review of the Stygian Library. This works pretty well for solo, so you might want to try running it solo a few times to kind of get your bearings with it and get your feet wet and understand what's in the book. I highly recommend reading through it at least once, all the way through before running it, just so you can kind of be prepared for the kind of odd things you might run into, and have in your mind kind of preloaded some of the stuff you might hit. Anyway, that is the flip through and review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this kind of content, you should come back. I'm going to try and do more flip through and reviews. You can subscribe or like or whatever YouTube things. If you want to support Watcher DM, you can go to watcherdm.com, sign up for the newsletter, and yeah, we're going to have a Kickstarter coming, I think, this summer, summer of 2025, for A Privatized Little Hell, which I'm really, really excited about. And yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for playing.